we are able to bring the lab instrument, which is really, really huge, into something like a palm-sized device. And we'll also be able to make the testing procedure very simple, very straightforward. And the data, once you test it, will be transferred to the app. And on our app, there is the artificial intelligence to learn what's happening, and it will be based on your past hormone data, will be based on the population profile and your lifestyle factors, and that will dynamically tell you when ovulation is, when your fertile window is.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode brought to you by Let's Get Checked. You can save 20% off your purchase by visiting tiyLGC.com/PCOS and using the code PCOS20 at checkout. Now I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to the PCOS Oracle Podcast, Sylvia. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. It's such an honor to have you on today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I know you're super busy, so thank you for coming on to speak about Mira and all the amazing products and things you and the Mira team are doing to help us all track and stay on top of our health. So can you tell us a bit about yourself, who Mira is, how the company and the first product came about, and yeah.
Sure. So this is Sylvia Kang, and thanks so much for having me. It's really been a pleasure to be here. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Mira Fertility. So my background is I have master in biomedical engineering from Columbia University, and also MBA from Cornell University. And before I started Mira, I was a business director in a Fortune 500 company. So I was running a life science global business before. From my background and my profile, I have so many friends just like me. They're women and they're getting more advanced career education, and they just tend to delay their maternal age. And when they start to think about, okay, this might be a time to have a family or to, plan for a kid or something like that, and they realize there is very little education or very little they know about themselves, about their body, about their cycle. And they start to try to conceive, and they thought this might be a quick process, but the reality is not. So on average, there's 43% of women who are trying to conceive actually took more than 3 months to get pregnant. So that has been a really stressful journey and a really stressful process for a lot of women like us. So I have many friends around me who are just liking this profile, and then if they even after they try to start to conceive, and if there's no results after a few months, and unfortunately they may have to end up in IVF or IUI, other kinds of fertility treatment, and that's another very difficult process for a lot of people. So looking at this profile and the people around me, so I was thinking that maybe there's some technology we should bring to women's consumer, so they can have better control of their body and they can know better about, how the cycle is, and provide them a very easy to understand education before the thing getting too late, right? So that's where when I started Mira. So I had a few other partners with me, and they're more on the technical side. But together, we really want to do is we want to bring some technology on the consumer's end, and this technology should be very accurate, just like almost like a hospital level of accuracy, but very easy to understand. So consumer look at their data or look at how they're doing in their cycle, so they can really take some action. They can really understand taking action and eventually make a difference, and to make their fertility journey much easier.
So fascinating to know how far the technology has gone from the standard of ovulation predictor kits, which are not very technical. There's no artificial intelligence or learning algorithms involved. To see like the progress of technology and what you all have created is really incredible, and just it fascinates me. So can we delve into exactly how a woman who's interested in purchasing the first product, which was the fertility tracker. How exactly can you speak about how it exactly works? Speak about the learning algorithm and all the amazing technology that is in this small little device.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, so the way Mira works is by testing your hormone. So maybe we need to talk a little bit more about hormones, so we understand why we need to test for that. So in order to get pregnant, naturally you have to find your ovulation, right? So if there's an egg there, and then the sperm can fertilize the egg, so that's a natural process. And that sounds easy. However, there's a study showing about half, like 50% of couple, they're trying to conceive at the wrong time. So which means they're not really trying to conceive when the egg is live or egg is at the best quality. And why is that? That's because our ovulation time is really short. That's number one. And number two is there's a lot of fluctuation. So even you have really regular cycle, every woman can be different, and even every cycle can be different. So sometimes you just don't know. You don't feel your ovulation. You just don't know what is the right time. And this is especially true if you are older, like if you're like about 35 years old, or even for some people 30 years old. So your egg quality tend to decrease, and if your partner is getting older too, and your sperm quality tend to decrease too. So then you really need to find this very precise timing, right? Because your chance got slimmer. And how to find this? And there's many ways that you guys might heard about. There's testing temperature and testing OPK or whatsoever. But the most accurate way and the doctor endorsed way is by testing your hormone and ultrasound, obviously. But there's no way we can do daily ultrasound at home. So then, for the hormone, how does it work? So there are multiple hormones in there, and the most important ones for trying to conceive or trying to avoid pregnancy might be estrogen and LH hormone. So the LH hormone increases when ovulation is about to happen. So that usually gives you your 2 most fertile days. So that means LH increase starts about 12 to 24 hours before ovulation. So that's a very narrow window, because the ovulation itself only lasts about 1 or 2 days. And then there's another hormone called estrogen. So that hormone starts to increase about 4 to 5 days before ovulation. And you are actually fertile around that time if your mucus quality is good and if the sperm quality is also good. So that means the sperm can get into woman's body earlier and wait there until the egg is released and then fertilize the egg immediately. So by testing these 2 hormones together, and you should be able to find your full fertile window. And on the other side, if you're trying to avoid pregnancy, you can find your full infertile window. So that's how the theory works. So now, what is a challenge, right? So you might think that, okay, there's OPK over there, so they might be testing some hormones too. And the biggest challenge here is the variability and accuracy. Because in order to define what is the ovulation, what is not ovulation, you need a threshold, right? So you need to say, okay, my LH is increased, but increased to what extent? It really means ovulation to me. But that definition is different for every person, and it might be every cycle. Some people have very high threshold, and some will have really low threshold. But if you're just using OPK, sometimes you might say there's a thin line over there. So what does it mean? Or you say I have a positive all months, or I just can't detect my peak. Those are very commonly occurring questions. So those are mostly because of your hormone threshold is not the same as population average, which is completely okay and completely normal. That happens a lot. But in that case, because the OPK has to define a fixed hormone threshold based on the population average, so it may not apply to you. So in other words, there's no personalization, but due to the personal variability of hormone levels, personalization is extremely important in order to detect your fertile window and ovulation very precisely. So that's where we came up with the idea of Mira. So the biggest difference for Mira is we test your actual hormone concentration. So that means we give you a number. So you can imagine that when you go to do the blood drawing, the report that came out will be some number, right? We'll say your LH hormone is what? Is a number, and your estrogen hormone is also a number. It's rarely gonna say, oh, this is positive, this is negative, right? Because how do we define positive and negative? Everyone's different. So Mira is doing exactly the same thing, actually using the same technology as the blood drawing. So it's the same kinds of chemical assay. So, but we are able to bring the lab instrument, which is really, really huge, into something like a palm-sized device. And we'll also be able to make the testing procedure very simple, very straightforward. And the data, once you test it, will be transferred to the app. And on our app, there is the artificial intelligence to learn what's happening, and it will be based on your past hormone data, will be based on the population profile and your lifestyle factors, and that will dynamically tell you when ovulation is, when your fertile window is. So by doing so, I think at least doing this is gonna do two things. Number one is it's gonna give you much more precise information and give you more confidence, because you can see your actual number on there, right? So actual number means over time you can see your pattern. You can say, okay, my hormone is increasing, but what does it mean? Increasing to what, right? So maybe my hormone level is higher or lower than the average. So I know, okay, how my body works right now. And there's almost impossible to miss a peak, because once you see the hormone curve, the shape will indicate there's a peak. Obviously, even your peak can be lower or can be higher, right? So that will significantly help you to try to conceive and to achieve or avoid pregnancy to achieve your fertility goal. And on the other side, what Mira is really trying to do is to give women more more power, more control, and better understanding into your body. Because I have so many friends around me, they have so many confusions about how to do a fertility tracking, what's happening with my body, why the products all telling me different things, and I go to see the doctor tell me really limited information I don't understand, and I just ask the internet, and the internet is all kinds of different things as well. So it's quite confusing, and we really want to give you, empower you with your own data and help you to understand what's going on, so you will feel more confident, and it will also ease the stress in fertility tracking, because if you're getting too stressed out during your trying to conceive journey, that will actually affect your outcome. So sometimes it will be harder to get pregnant.
Exactly. I agree with everything you said. I feel when you're obviously super stressed because, for example, with the BPT method, we are having to test your temperature at the same time every morning and making sure the temperature in the room is always standardized the same. It's obviously super stressful for women who are trying to conceive, and that added stress is obviously impacting their ability to get pregnant, because cortisol can affect the balance of our hormones. And I just love how you've managed to create, get that big lab equipment that when you go to the doctor and they use all this fancy equipment, you've literally just put it in a palm-sized device, and women are really empowered. I've had the privilege of using it myself, and I've learned so much from using the Mira Fertility Analyzer. And back a few years ago, I always thought tracking your menstrual cycle and all this kind of stuff was just for women who are looking to conceive, but it's really for any woman who's really looking to understand her menstrual cycle, pay attention to her hormones. And personally for me, who I have PCOS, and this whole podcast is focused for women with PCOS, they have irregular cycles is a common symptom of PCOS, and high luteinizing hormone is another kind of problem with women with PCOS face. So having this technology, this small compact technology at your fingertips, allows women to be empowered and gain that personalized fertility insights and be able to track exactly when their ovulation might be, and be able to see that peak above their high baseline of LH. So for women with PCOS, I know you lot market it as something that's for women with PCOS and irregular cycles, because obviously we know with OPKs they can give women with PCOS false readings, and that false hope and that frustration. You end up wasting your money because it doesn't detect that surge above your high baseline. So it's all pretty fascinating, and I like the interesting learning algorithm where you take the fertility goal and your previous menstrual cycle, your period, and you predict your following cycles. So women are empowered with this knowledge, so they know when their fertile days will be and when their infertile days are, so they can plan if they're trying to conceive. Which is so amazing, and what you have all done to create such an amazing product.
Thank you so much for that. I completely agree. So yes, for PCOS, actually tracking the actual hormone concentration is really helpful, and that's probably how people with PCOS should get conceived. PCOS is really common right now. I believe there's 10 or 15% of global population of women are actually having PCOS, and from our user perspective, we have a lot of people, they have PCOS and they use Mira to do all kinds of different things. I can actually give you, I think, two really interesting examples. And the first one is, as you said, a lot of women with PCOS, they have high LH base, like luteinizing hormone baseline is really high. So that means you cannot really use OPK. OPK will give you positive all the time because OPK, only knows if you're above threshold or below threshold, but they don't know how high your hormone is a high, right? Or how low is a low. So, but from our user, one of our user, came to ask us about a question about her hormone profile, and we look at that. We found that her baseline is even close to 40. So 40 usually means the surge, means the ovulation, the really high peak for the healthy woman. So however, she might still have the ovulation because we saw another even higher peak, close even to luteinizing hormone got to close to 60 or something. So it's relatively a smaller peak because the baseline is much higher, but we are able to see this. So we were able to help her to get pregnant. So that's one example I can think about. Another really interesting example is that, women with PCOS, sometimes they're getting through the treatment. And when they're getting through treatment, things can be not that regular. Sometimes they ovulate, sometimes they don't ovulate, and they want to say, how is the progress? Is there am I really getting better? Am I ovulating this month or something like that? So we have another customer, actually, she sent us a question about a few months ago. She's like, I've been using Mira for a while, and I never detected ovulation, and I never detected LH surge. Is there anything wrong with the product or anything wrong with me? And then we look at her profile. She was actually testing very frequently. She's testing like every other day, so which is much more frequent than we usually suggest. And she didn't see any higher LH hormone level. And then we told her, say, maybe you can do is bring this data to your doctor. Just show her, show your doctor, your past the 3 months hormone data, and that will be really helpful for doctor to understand what's going on. And she did that, and then she came back saying the doctor, they diagnosed her as PCOS, and she didn't know about that before. She just and the doctor was really impressed that if she can she was able to bring the past 3 months continuous data. So that's definitely very helpful. The data is definitely really helpful for the medical professionals as well.
Yeah, that is pretty amazing how she was doing this all on her own, and she gathered all this data and was able to take it to her doctor and get that formal diagnosis that she needed, because she was struggling with a lack of ovulation and all this kind of stuff. So it's great to know that such a thing can empower you and provide you with the knowledge that you need to go ahead to your doctor, because a lot of the time, you go to the doctor and they don't really provide you with the information you sometimes need. So being able to purchase something like this and get that information and then go back to a doctor and be like, well, this is what I found, what can we do about this? And then they end up supporting you, it's really great. And you also mentioned about, so obviously in the app it tells you when to test. So in the calendar there's a green dot symbolizing when you should be testing. What do you advise for how often a woman should test. Like specifically for a woman with PCOS who does have irregular cycles, in the starter kit there's 10 fertility ones. How often would a woman have to be testing?
Sure. So, as you mentioned, we have an algorithm to calculate when you should be doing the testing, and that algorithm is dynamic. So it will depend on your cycle length, and it will depend on your last cycle when that started, or so on. But usually, you will need to test 10 to 15 times per cycle. However, with irregular cycle, we suggest you to test more often. So what you can do is because if your first cycle testing, you may not really know your hormone profile, so you may want to test a little bit more often. I would say test it like every 3 days or so on at the beginning of the cycle after period is done, is finished, and then until you see the surge. And when you're, at your predicted fertile window, you will need to test more often. So we suggest to test like once per day to not really miss the peak. Because if the peak comes in, it can last only like 12 hours, and they just go up and then immediately go down. So you don't want to miss that. And then you will start to see your hormone profile. And then later you can just follow the testing schedule on the app, to which might be testing less frequent. And the app will actually do the same thing. The algorithm usually asks you to test more frequently at the beginning of the your earlier cycles or so on, and then it will sometimes ask you to test less often later. And also the the results, the interpretation, for example, when your fertile window is and what hormone level means ovulation to you, those things will be dynamically calculated by the algorithm as well.
Yeah, I really like how the product gives you the actual hormone concentration and also tells you, obviously for a layman person who doesn't know what the number means, I like how Mira provides you with, low, non-low, medium or high. So at least the woman can know exactly what that number means. And also I like how there's the LH curve, which can show you exactly when there has been that peak. And another great feature that I think is great, and personally for me, I'm not obviously looking to conceive yet, but I feel for women who are looking to conceive, Mira provides a personalized fertility score. So out of 10, it tells you, with 10 being if you have unprotected sex now, then you're highly likely to conceive. I feel like having that extra bit of information is very useful for a woman who's currently looking to conceive.
Yeah, that's completely correct. And the fertility score is a dynamic one. So fertility score is really trying to help women to understand their hormone profile. We completely understand that, on one side, we want to give our user as much detail as possible, but on the other side, we don't want to give them more confusion or more stress. And by looking into your actual hormone numbers, sometimes it can be confusing, can be a little bit overwhelming, because it will never look perfect. It will never look like what you think it should look like. So that's why we have the fertility score. So fertility score range from, as you said, from a 1 to 10. So above certain number, I believe is about 4 or so, and it will turn to be blue color. So that is the time we think your fertile window might be happening. So basically, you can take the fertility score as a dynamic interpretation of the hormone profile. So it translates the hormone profile to be something meaningful to you, which means you're fertile or not fertile. And more importantly means how fertile you are. So that's actually a differentiation or something new. We're trying to bring value to our consumer, because usually the whatever product on the market, either you test your BBT or you test your OPK or whatsoever, usually not going to tell you how fertile you are, only going to tell you, okay, we think you're fertile or not fertile. But how fertile you are is quite important too, because as I said, if you're getting a little bit older or you have taking a long time to trying to conceive, you want to find the most fertile time, because that is the time you have the highest chance. If your chance is already slimmer than a younger woman or so on, you want to capture the best opportunity so your conceiving can go more smooth.
Exactly. And so like you said, with the learning algorithm, the more you use Mira, throughout your cycle, the smarter it gets and the more accurate its predictions will be for, when ovulation will happen and when your most fertile days will be. So for our listeners who are interested in purchasing a Mira fertility tracker, can you talk a bit about the price and what our listeners may need to know if they're interested in buying it?
Sure. So the price for the starter kit is $199. So that includes the analyzer and the 10 test ones for free. So as we said before, usually you will need 10 to 15 test ones per cycle. So the free 10 test ones should be able to support you to go through the first cycle, and then you can purchase the replacement ones. And for the LH ones, it's the $45 for 20 ones at this moment.
Awesome. And I guess before we wrap up, can you also touch on the new product that Mira has released? And I don't know if there's any other potential products in the pipeline.
Sure. So we're really excited right now because we are releasing a new product, which is estrogen testing. So the current product on the market tests for the luteinizing hormone, which is to detect your ovulation, so your 2 peak fertility days. But we're now releasing the estrogen test ones. So it's under pre-order right now, and that will be shipped about 2 months later. And this new product can test the estrogen and LH on the same test wand. So you only need to pee on the stick once, and you will see 2 hormone profile, and both hormone profile are quantitative, means you're still seeing the numeric or actual hormone concentration, and both hormone curve will be plotted on the app. So you can see your hormone trend, you can see when fertile window is, and more importantly, you can see the relationship between these 2 hormones, the ratio between those 2 hormones. And you have much more, wider spectrum to understand your body, because we said estrogen increase few days before the ovulation. So you have more, characteristics to look into. So that's one new product. And this test wand works with the analyzer perfectly. So for Mira, what we're trying to do is to build a platform. So you only need to purchase one analyzer, and then you can just keep purchasing different kinds of test wands, and they can all work on the same test with the same analyzer, and you can see all your hormone profile inside one app. And there's another future product down the road, which is progesterone testing. And we know there's a lot of hope, and a lot of people are looking forward to that, because progesterone will give you even wider spectrum of your cycle. And estrogen, LH, and progesterone all add together pretty much going to give you your whole cycle about what's going on. So progesterone increases after ovulation happens. So that is really important for people who are trying to avoid the pregnancy naturally, because after your ovulation happens, the egg only lives up to 24 hours. So that means after that and before the starting time of your next period, those are relatively probably the safest time to have sex if you are trying to avoid the pregnancy. And also progesterone will tell you more about your body, like if you have a luteal phase deficiency, and if you also have the if you're getting pregnant, and the progesterone level needs to be maintained to a certain level to keep the fetal growth or something like that. So anyway, we are launching those 2 new products really soon, and we think that's gonna transform Mira to be not only a fertility tracker, but really be more like a tool to help every single woman to really know what's going on in your body, and it will help you to trying to conceive, trying to avoid pregnancy, looking into ratios of your hormone levels, and help with the fertility treatment decision, help to with the PCOS outcome, with the PCOS improvement, and many other, even like a menopause eventually or so on. And all this will be working with the same analyzer. We're just trying to really bridge the accuracy of the science with the convenient at home.
Wow, that's so amazing. And I think the progesterone one would be really beneficial for women with PCOS also, because I feel obviously women with PCOS lack ovulation. They don't ovulate very often, and being able to see, because obviously producing progesterone is really important for our overall health and well-being. So being able to see that if you have produced progesterone can be really helpful for a woman to know. And yeah, I'm really excited to, I can't wait for these products to come about and to test them out and use them myself. What you all are doing is just so incredible. Thank you so much for speaking about Mira. Where can our listeners find Mira? What's the website? Is there anything else you can share that our listeners can follow or find them?
Sure. So our website is miracare.com. So Mira is MIA, so miracare.com. And you can find a lot of information over there. And also you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or on the social media, Pinterest, or so on. So our handler is the MIRA Fertility.
Awesome. I'll have everything linked in the show notes. Highly recommend everyone goes checks out Mira, purchases a product, follows, and just learns a lot about how the product works as well, and just test it out. Once again, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come on the podcast. I really appreciate you speaking about Mira and just telling our listeners how it works, and just really delving into why it's important to track your hormones, track your menstrual cycle, for if you're trying to conceive or not. I feel like it's very important to be raising that awareness. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me too, and it has really been a great pleasure. We really look forward to helping more women to achieve their fertility goals.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.